Okay, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to refactor our dispatch actions and use something that's called action creators. We'll talk about why we're going to do that first. If we were to have, for example, this like we in our last video had this action type of add user, and we're listening for add user here. But what if I accidentally misspelled this? Then all it would do is just fail silently, and it would be really difficult to debug what is going on. And so what we're going to do is use action creators, which is going to help just make um, our dispatchers have a little bit more validation to them. And so what I'm going to do is inside of my store folder, my store directory, I'm going to create a new directory called actions. And inside of actions, I'm going to create my index.js file. And then I'm also going to create a file called constants.js. So constants is just going to be an object of constants. So really creative constant name here. And so this might look a little bit funny whenever you see the way this looks, but if you remember, we had add user as one of our action types. And so all we're going to do is make our action type names both the key and the value. So we're going to say add user, so that's the name of the key, and then the value is add user. And then we will do the same for, I think it was get all users, if I'm not mistaken. Where's my set all users? That makes sense because it is in fact a post. So set all users, set all users. And then we're going to export this object. And then in this index.js file inside of our actions directory, we're going to import those constants from /constants. That's from the same directory. Before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and jump down and export. We're going to call this actions. All right, so actions is going to be an object of methods. So we're going to say const actions. And each of these methods, all it's going to do is basically maybe take in some data, and it's going to return back to us what we want our action to be that we're dispatching. And so for our sign up, what we had was an action that was the type add user and then the user. We took in a user and we exported a user. And so this is going to be a method that we'll call it add user. It's going to look a lot like what we had before. So we're taking in a user, and then we are simply just returning the type of, I'll go ahead and do this for now, add user, and then the user. Now, what we can do here is, since we have this constants object, rather than hard coding this as the string, we're going to say constants.addUser. You might be scratching your head at this thinking, why? What's the point? Why do you do that? The reason is that inside of this constants folder, you've got these duplicate key and values. That's going to kind of be like a fail proof. If I were to misspell this at all, what I would get in return is undefined. This would go to my reducer with a type of undefined, which would then throw an error. And so that's great because that helps us debug. And if our dispatcher is not working, we want to be aware of it. And so we want to make sure that we're actually sending what we want to send. So now I've got this add user action. The other one was, I believe, set all users, and that's going to take in users, and we're going to return the object type of constants dot set all users, and we're also returning users. And since this is an object, I've got to have the comma there. All right, so now I'm exporting these methods wrapped in this actions object. So that means that now, if I go into my sign up page, now I can import my actions. So I can say, do this down here because it's one that I built, not a library that I installed. Import actions from store actions. And remember, it's the index.js file, so that's all we have to do. And then from here, this is returning this object that we already need for add user. And so since the result of calling this method returns this action, then we can say dispatch actions dot add user. And then we pass in the user. That, I believe, should still work. Let's try it out. So we're going to say Ryan Johnson, Ryan at test.com. Hey, I'm not a drummer. I might be in the wrong place. Okay, submit, and there it is. So we know it worked. This would not have rendered to the page if that didn't work. So the benefit of doing it this way is that it makes it a little bit more fail-proof whenever you are actually dispatching your actions. The other place we had it was in this set all users. So we can go ahead and do the same thing here in our nav bar. We certainly don't need the console log statement anymore. And then, so the first thing we need to do is import our actions. So import actions from store actions, and then we're going to go down here and we're going to dispatch actions dot set all users, passing in users. And that should still work too, and it does. We would not have these users here if that did not work. In the next video, we're going to talk about, we're going to kind of expand on this app just a little bit to talk about some of the benefits of why to use Redux. So far, everything that you've seen up until this point, you can probably take this and run with it and do whatever you need to do at this point with using map state to props and map dispatch to props, especially if you're using your action creators. But you might be wondering, what's the point of this? Why not just pass it down into props? Well, this app is certainly not a very large-scale app at all. So I'm going to talk about maybe a little bit of a benefit of using these other routes and having this data available to us. But hopefully by this point, it's starting to make a little bit more sense to you. So in the next video, we'll expand on this app a little bit more and start using this My Profile feature. Thanks for watching.